gentlemen, good morning to all of you. We are very interesting panelists today, and I'm really looking forward to a debate. How do we improve agri-productivity through inputs? All of you are aware that India is one of the largest, or the second largest producer of farm output. Having said that, the productivity in India is not so good. 55% of the people have to work in agri sector to produce just 14% of the GDP. Compared to the US, which is the largest producer of agri outputs, only 4% people are engaged. And I believe this is one of the important reasons when our Prime Minister took over recently. He spoke about the agri productivity, and he said it is not for us it is not a choice, but it is an imperative. And some of the key mantras he used, the mantras were less land, less time for agri productivity, blue ocean strategy. He spoke about more crop per drop. And you know why it is so imperative for a Prime Minister to think about agri productivity? It's no brainer as such. The population in India, which is 1.2 billion, definitely will become 1.5 billion in 30 years, whether there's a Modi government or not. And in order to, with the increase in the per capita income, we'll have to feed this population. The dietary requirement, protein requirement will increase significantly. We have the same issues on the supply side, which I've been talking for many decades. The land quality is poor, it is depleting. The water availability is 65% lower than what it used to be 50 years back. Most of the farmers in India use saved seeds, which are less productive. The utilization on the pesticides as well as fertilizers is also on the lower side. And you know, if you look at last 50 years, the agri productivity per capita has actually come down by 20 kgs. And you know, while we are talking about growth, the productivity is on the other hand coming down. So we have a very interesting panelist here today, and you know, in India, agriculture has been practiced for the last 3,000 years. But it is a time for us to sit back, introspect, and think how the productivity has increased. And you know, our panelists can help us to give some insights about this. My first question to the panel, and maybe to Mark, to yourself, India has done very well in terms of IT and you know, IT technology, as well as the penetration of mobile is significantly high. How do we bring IT and agriculture today to improve productivity? Do you have any views? I know you have invested in some interesting companies like SkyMets and Stellups and Eurovaka, but would you like to think how do we bring technology for agri improvement?
Sure, I think it's largely a function of platforms and time, which is to say that there's, you know, essentially the first platform that needed to roll out was mobility in general. Sure. And obviously, you know, that had probably one of the most transformative impacts ever on rural India, just the sheer connectivity. The next platform that has largely rolled out is the availability of 3G, GPRS, right? Internet connectivity through the mobile phone, and farmers upgrading themselves to better and better mobile phones, right? I mean, I like to joke, just to make sure I stay grounded, I use a 7,000 rupee Micromax, right? Which is basically anyone can afford this at this point. And the price point has been driven down so that these are becoming ubiquitous. And then, now that these two platforms are there, now you can start seeing the development of connected devices, sensors, what you know, people in Silicon Valley would call the Internet of Things. That wasn't really possible a few years ago, right? I think that a lot of people point to IT failures in agriculture, and they say, well, this SMS-based service didn't work. Well, that was, you know, that presumed literacy level that might have not been there, right? People don't like getting SMSs very much, right? There are a lot of failed experiments using older technology. I think now that we have, right, widespread, low-cost internet connectivity through mobile devices, you're going to start seeing people doing those experiments again and seeing them succeed. What we have invested in Omnivore are really essentially companies that are integrating software and hardware to bring information to farmers that they never could have had previously. You talked about Eruvaka, right? Eruvaka is essentially an aquaculture monitoring and automation system. You know, aquaculture is a huge industry in coastal India, especially in Andhra Pradesh and Gujarat. but it's a very difficult industry because it's like flying blind, right? You have zero visibility about what's going on in your pond, right? If you have fields, if you're growing sugarcane or vegetables, you can walk through it. You can't do that with a pond. And what Eruvaca has done is they've taken sensors, an array of sensors that sit under a buoy. That buoy is connected to, the cloud, which is then connected to the mobile. And at a very affordable price point, all of a sudden farmers have full visibility into their pond chemistry 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Radically reduces their risk. And that same platform gives them automation over their aerators, over their feeders. It's a transformative technology that was not possible even 5 years ago. Stellaps is doing very similar work in the dairy sector, right? SkyMed is different. It's essentially the largest weather network in the country now. But again, its ability to deliver precise weather to farmers, right, has been radically improved by the advancement of these platform technologies. And I would even argue that Kedut, which is one of our portfolio companies, right, is building another platform technology, not a digital platform technology, a mechanical platform technology, which is automatic seeding and planting. And when you start combining that platform with, right, the platform of mobility and information, you can start doing things like variable rate, right? But it's about building out these platforms.
How do you see the adoption rate in farmers, and do you think any way we can accelerate the adoption?
I mean, what we've seen, right, is aquaculture farmers for Eruvaca have been adopting that. We've sold a couple thousand units already, sure, right? But aquaculture farmers are a very progressive farmer. Sure. In Stellaps, sales have been advancing very, very well. Again, progressive dairy farmers. So right now, those companies are really focused on the top 10, 15% of farmers that are out there. I think we're still waiting on kind of the equivalent product for farmers growing row crops and horticulture. I think you will probably see that. I would argue that right, Kedut has the potential to do that, in a couple of years with variable rate. But I think we're still sort of waiting for the killer app in that space.
So this is an interesting segue into the micro irrigation, because this is a technological intervention into agriculture. Micro irrigation in India, if you see, it can bring water consumption down by at least 30%, and it can increase yield by 25%. But the entire market in India is revolving around the subsidy regime, and market is very limited. Do you have any solutions which can address the issues about small farms in India, and also the solution is more effective, more affordable, and people can really go for it without any subsidy?
Yeah, so just to echo Mark's comments, I think the key is going to be making a product that is both that gives farmers more control, right? So weather data, for example, can be valuable, but unless farmers have a way to actually control the use of their irrigation, there's two parts. There's knowledge, and then there's actually control. So I think what's interesting is actually the intersection of both of those. Now, DripTech makes affordable irrigation equipment. What we saw was that traditional drip irrigation just wasn't accessible to most farmers. It was too expensive, it was too complicated. And through some new manufacturing technology, we've been able to cut the cost of drip irrigation by 75%. So we're selling at just 1/4 of the cost of traditional drip irrigation. But it's not just about the cost, it also has to be appropriate and available, right? So you can redesign a technology to make it more affordable for 90% of India's farmers who have less than 5 acres. But unless you can then make it available to them and accessible to them, it doesn't matter. So the way that we do that, is by making it. The way that we make it accessible is by basically demonstrating it in a simple way. The one thing that I hear from farmers more often than anything is seeing is believing, and so actually we demonstrate our product. Every one of our sales team has a simple bag demo kit that they can instantly demonstrate our product in the matter of 2 minutes, they can show our system working and the uniformity of our drip irrigation to a group of 50 farmers in a village. So even if you have a product that can double a farmer's income, they don't necessarily believe it unless you can actually get out to the village and show them firsthand.
And, most of the farmers are not interested in investing upfront, right, in the capital model. Is it possible that we develop this technology and offer them as OPEX? That means you offer as a service rather than, as a CAPEX, and which can be, you pay for service and not for the capital.
I think that's a really interesting idea. We were talking about a little bit before, and I think that it really plays into also inputs and consumables. So we see drip irrigation as a platform for small platformer profitability, but on top of that, there are agri-services, there are inputs, especially liquid fertilizer, which requires drip irrigation to be most effective. And if you can basically combine these inputs in a service model, in an ongoing OPEX model, then that really allows you to do some interesting things with financing the CAPEX, the drip irrigation. But from our perspective, it's also about initial affordability and appropriateness of the product. So the fact is we've tried to make the product as affordable as possible up front. And we've sold over 25,000 acres in India on a cash and carry basis. So the first step is to make it as affordable as possible. Then you can look at innovative financing models and mobile pay as you go for smart systems. I think that's all there, but it can't be a replacement for just pure affordability.
And does your solution works for larger farms, or it is mainly for the smaller farms?
It's really designed and optimized for small plot farms. Drip irrigation's been around for 50 years, and there are great solutions for large-scale Western agriculture. What we're missing and what we've focused on is products that are appropriate and affordable for the other 90% of Indian farmers. Because when you talk about this, feeding 1.5 billion people, the fact is that in India, over 80% of food that's consumed locally is grown on small plot farms. And if we're looking at improving efficiencies and improving outputs, that's going to have to happen on small plot farms, not just large farms. Farms are getting smaller. They're not actually, being aggregated as they are in the West. And so I actually think there are a lot of really great products available for large farms already there. And yeah, they're expensive, but they're really good. What's missing and what we're focused on is the other 90% of the world's farmers.
So one of the important, productivity driver which we have seen in last 10 years is GM seeds. When the BT came to India, India became one of the largest exporter, which used to be largest importer. But after that, we are not seeing a significant movement on the BT. We spoke about BT brinjal and BT jute, but we haven't seen any approvals coming through. So in the panel, we have people, Mr. Agarwal from the seeds. What do you think going to happen in next 5 years? Will India take the GM route with some systems and processes in place to ensure that they are not misused? Or you think this journey is not going to be as efficient?
Yeah. Girish, as you rightly said that presently GM seeds, except BT cotton, there is no approval coming through. Recent government has made through the field trials of BT brinjal. But still some of the states are like Gujarat itself is restraining from adopting the field trials on BT. This is just because of non-transparency and non-clearance on policy issues. The basic fear amongst the consumers are whether BT is suitable for human consumption or not. So this is the primary question. The second question which comes that regulators are not having any testing facility. They are relying on the testing facility of the inventor itself. So that is the second challenge. Why BT cotton has got the success? The second most important thing was genetics. If technology combines with genetics, then only any technology come to on ground. And so far as in other crops which are coming in coming years, the rice is the major crop which is expected to be incorporated with GM. But if we look at the rice, the sentimental clearance would not be there from the consumers. So that is the challenge. But if we got the policy clearance, then yes, it would come. The second thing is extension services. Farmers are not aware, basically, as Mark told that there are small field sizes and farmers are very small. So they are not really aware that what kind of changes, what kind of improvement, what kind of revenue generation technology can give. So unless and until we can strengthen our extension services, it would be difficult. Like I would like to put an example. Within 7 years, capsicum on the same land, using same input, capsicum production gone from 15 tons to 65 tons an acre. So that is possible just because of using proper agronomy. So that is the primary question. And so far as GM is concerned, GM is a technology which is on science side it is proven. It is if we talk about the science, it should be on ground right now. But if we talk about the sentiments, that is the question, how to address this issue.
But you know, I read last week, Gujarat became the 12th state in India who has stopped, field trials of GM, right?
Yeah.
So, in fact, when I was asking this question, Mark said, why are we even debating this? Does panel have a very different view about this?
Yeah, I think it's a dumb debate. I think it's agricultural suicide, but I think India always changes at the last second when a gun is to its head, and we will on this as well, and we will on this eventually. But I think until this collective lunacy stops, it's not really worth debating when.
Hello. I think there is another view on that. See, if you look at the Indian scenario especially on the, let's say, wheat and rice, the requirement is around 26 million metric ton is every year, correct? The fresh seed is available by government channel and private sector is around 5 to 7 million metric ton. So the first challenge is to provide the replacement of the homegrown seed instead of that. That's first. I think GM definitely an important factor which we need to discuss. But the basic fact is that we are not having that fresh seed for those farmers, which can directly impact our productivity. So I think the debate is, valid probably, and the basic things are still need to set first right, I think.
I think that one thing that Arvind said that I really want to reiterate is that the government needs to focus on strengthening their extension services, and this is something that we see in irrigation as well. The government subsidy system for irrigation has failed. We've had subsidies and we've had Western-style traditional drip irrigation in India for over 40 years, and it has not reached a penetration of more than 3% in irrigated crops. And to continue this subsidy system, most farmers can't avail of the subsidy. They can't actually go through the process, bribe the right people to get the subsidy. The vast majority of that subsidy goes to the largest farmers. That money should all be going to farm extension services that actually explain to farmers why technologies like seeds and irrigation are valuable. That's how the government can help. Market distortions are not the right way.
Oh my God, please don't spend that money on agricultural extension services. You might as well put it in a corner and set it on fire.
I think.
I mean,
right now,
honestly, you really want to give that money to SAUs?
It would be better. It would be better served in agricultural services.
At
than
least
actually,
it goes into capex right now.
Right now, there are farmers that could afford to buy drip irrigation, that would be buying drip irrigation, but aren't because they think that they can get a subsidy that isn't there. It's actually distorting and killing.
It is a market distortion. It's also one of the world's largest drip irrigation markets.
The worst thing is a subsidy. The worst thing is a subsidy that doesn't work.
It's one of the world's largest drip irrigation markets? Yes? Yeah?
It is
It's
one
all
of
being
our-
sold on subsidy?
No, actually, the fastest growing drip irrigation
Not the
market is
fastest growing,
non-subsidy.
aggregate annual amounts, 80% of it's on subsidy, right? The world's largest drip irrigation amount, 80%
Well, you could
on
also
subsidy,
say that
something is happening.
that India is
It's a
the
messed up,
largest.
it's a messed up
India is
system.
the largest
It is a
market
messed up system.
of non-subsidy, of non-using drip irrigation.
Great.
Right, most
It's-
farmers who
The
who
point
can't
is, at
afford
least
and
it's,
can't avail of
at least
subsidy.
the government money is being converted into a capital asset that does something. Agricultural extension services, on the other hand, basically goes into the pocket of people that sit in their offices and do nothing.
Okay, well, I'm not saying that
Have
that
you met,
that the.
have you met horticultural extension officers?
Yes.
Busy people?
Yeah, Mark, I have something to say here.
Yeah.
So, in our experience, we've been engaged in direct agriculture and also in extension services, contract services, a very long time. At first, when we started Shubh Labh, we found that, there was a definite need for knowledge from various farm, in various states. And we were kind of hesitant to even go to Punjab thinking that, look, that's a very advanced farmer, he doesn't need any advice. But I think we were totally wrong, because when we did go to Punjab and when it was private extension and we engaged with the farmer, we found there were increases of about 15 to 20%. So there's a lot of hand holding that assisted farmers for productivity and advancement. We're running a grape export business in the fresh produce area, and that's a very technically advanced kind of crop in the sense that there are 200 agrochemicals which need to be ensured for food safety compliance for German standards and European standards. Now that is something where the farmer definitely needs and can use help and assistance. And without that help and assistance, he doesn't qualify. I agree that government extension services definitely need to be improved. And there has been some kind of an initiative that the government itself understands that it's not as effective as the money that has been allocated and is being spent. And maybe perhaps I think at this forum we should kind of raise the opportunity to suggest that there was an initiative to kind of encourage private companies engaged in agribusiness to get a tax set-off if they take extension to the field, get it audited, and if they do that, the impact, I think, to us as a government, as a nation, as a cost spend is going to be far, far more impactful. And we are so many companies, as you can see, who are engaged here in agribusiness, right across the country. So definitely, I think knowledge, as you said, is very important to agribusiness. And knowledge not only in technical production, like in utilization of the technology in terms of your aquaculture or in dairy, but also on the market side. For instance, Mahindra is now using or focusing on attempting to use big data analytics for market side, when you deal with markets in Europe which are on consignment sales. It's very difficult to figure out exactly when to stop sending and when to continue to supply. And we are developing data even on the extension side, like we call something called M-Astra, where it's a tablet-based engagement for technical services with farmers. And also on the Salesforce automation through tablet, where our concerned territory manager goes out to the field, and that is more on the trade and the commercial side. So technology, services, and knowledge, I think when they all come together, you have a good result.
Have any solutions from the farm mechanization which can take care of the smaller size of the farms? And do we have financing options which can really accelerate this type of mechanization?
I think if we see the challenge in India is, the biggest vulnerable issue is the people all around, let's say, around 70% of plus farmer who are cultivating around 32% land, which is a small and marginal farmer. So these farmers are so small in size and they don't have affordability, first and foremost. So I think the mechanization has, this again the responsibility on all stakeholders to bring a solution which can be affordable for these small farmers. I agree with the product which Peter have, around 10 to 15,000 rupees per acre, vis-a-vis the 60,000 rupees per acre, the other product. But the question is, now that 15,000 rupees is not available with the farmer because it's so small in size, and he cannot take risk on that also. We don't have the finance option. No NBFC, no bank can fund a non-standard product. So standardization in India takes so much time that a turnaround time in government sector to approve a product is, I think, is a tedious project. So now I think the government has to come forward to approve these technology much faster so that commercialization can happen. Second is to support from the NBFCs and bank, go beyond your crop loans. If you look at the data, the agriculture credit growth is around 15 to 18% in last decade. But if you go to a little more micro level, the farm mechanization agriculture growth is less than 1%. So that's where we are financing tractors only.
Right.
Probably the equipment which we are talking about, a new age equipment, for example, we were talking about SMS technology or let's say low cost other solutions. But do we have the finance option for that? Probably not. So how the small farmers problem can be addressed until unless we are not having this credit flow properly.
Sure.
So that's one.
So actually, if I could respond to that. We see that same challenge as well, and actually, we've just pioneered a new financing system for farmers, small farmers, to buy our product. The way that we have done this is actually working with aggregators and contract farming organizations. So we're working with 5 out of the 10 largest gherkin farming organizations in the south in India. And what we have been able to offer and what we're piloting now is basically a 3-part financing between an NBFC, the contract farming organization, and Drip Tech, where basically the loan is in the name of the farmer. It is a loan directly to the farmer, but no cash, actually trades hands. So they get the product up front. They pay for the product with the increased yield that they bring at the end of the season. And we get the security of these farmers being pre-selected by the contract farming organization, all of the extension that they're already doing, the aligned incentives, but it's not on our balance sheet, it's not on their balance sheet, and the farmer actually gets the technology and the benefit.
No, but that point is valid only for the contract farmer. What about the people who are not engaged in the contract farming? Second is that, look at who is taking the risk in that financing. The contract farming company. The NBFC, who's funding at the rate of 25 to 28%, which is as good as an NPA rate in the market to the farmers. How this affordability can bring on the independent farmer who are not engaged into the, that. And then also sometimes these financial institutions put a, buyback kind of clause with the manufacturer. All these, I think that's where we need to address the basic issues, which my point is. I think it's a really good initiative.
When we're talking about innovating in sort of financing, it's going to start with the low-hanging fruit, which is definitely the contract farming organizations. But if the goal is to get to standardized, product-based agro-mechanization, agro-equipment financing, we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
So Vikram,
Absolutely.
maybe, in the interest of time, we'll move to the next point.
Yeah.
We have seen pesticides and fertilizers play an important role in agri-management. On the fertilizer side, because of the subsidy and lack of soil testing facility, there has been reckless use of fertilizers. As well as regard the pesticides, people use various products, some of them are red triangle, and who has the health hazard on the farmers. Do you think there is a need of some sort of management and advisory services for the farmers, which can improve productivity and farmer will pay for these agri services? And have you done anything in that line?
Okay, so yes, we have tried a lot in that direction. Firstly, as far as fertilizers is concerned, we find there is definitely overuse of fertilizers in certain places that we know about. In fact, 5 or 7 years ago, we were servicing about 85,000 acres in Punjab. And that was primarily on account of the fact that due to this, free water, and you're talking about, water being free, so people were using it. But today, things are different. People were using urea, it was leaching, nitrate leaching, and you had in the southern districts of Punjab, all of this water was coming to the subsurface. Water tables started sinking. So each farmer in the northern district of Punjab, the wells were kind of falling, and he had a cost of drilling deeper. But more importantly, they had to dig drains right out into Rajasthan from Punjab to decant the nitrates. Otherwise, it was 3 feet below the surface. So you have instances like that. So definitely there is very important, initiatives that can be taken and must be taken, I think, for
Will farmer
adequate use.
pay for the services?
Well, our experience has been that if you register a farmer for 10 acres for a service, he will register. But he will register for 1 acre, you will use it in 10 acres. And therefore, I don't think you can monetize extension. It's got to be linked with product buyback. Number 2, as far as pesticides is concerned, certain crops definitely need very precise application at the right time for pre-harvest intervals so that the residue levels are low. One good step that the government has taken right now is to put this FSSAI licensing which is required. And I think that's a step in the right direction where right use technology, responsible use approach for pesticide residue will see rollout. But I don't know how fast, how quick. We're very sorry to see actually misuse of pesticide again. I keep talking about Punjab. There's a train actually that runs from Bathinda to Bombay, and it's called the Cancer Express. It's Cancer Express because of so heavy use of pesticides, so many sprays in cotton, and all that is kind of subsoil leaching into the vegetables and the grain crops, and has a very deleterious effect on health. Sure. And it's actually if you Google it, you'll find out all about it. So definitely, I think there is a very, very strong need to have a responsible use technology and right use technology.
Mark seems to have some view.
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly...
Just in the interest of time, my last question to the panel is, there are so many obstacles in productivity development, but as a private sector, as a government sector, what we should do to overcome these issues, and how many years do you think India will take to become really one of the global best in terms of productivity? So open to the panel.
Okay, so let me say one thing, very quickly. Often it's quoted that Indian productivity is low. I really don't believe that the potential is so poor here. In fact, if you take a crop like potato, for instance, people quote Israel at 60 tons to a hectare, and India is low at 25 tons. But we must understand that they grow it in a regime where there is high photo intensity, etc. And if we take those crops up to Lahore, we are equally as good. So I think the productivity capability of this country is as good as anywhere else in the world. We need to see in which regime we are growing, what we are growing. If you find the right conditions, we are as competitive worldwide. I know that Ludhiana district in wheat, for instance, is probably at the global cutting edge in terms of productivity. So there's plenty of prospects.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with Vikram. I think you just need to look at the agricultural export numbers coming out of India over the last 15 years. We've gone from being, absolutely insignificant in global agricultural exports to being a real player across multiple commodities. I think that talks about our degree of efficiency, our degree of productivity, and I expect that to boom in the next 10 years, backed by more food processing. So, I think we're heading in the right direction. Like I said, I think it's about a lot of platform technologies coming into place at the same time, and we're starting to see those click.
I'd say, obviously, irrigation is the key from my perspective about improving productivity, and it needs to be appropriate for small plot farmers. If we look at all of the great seed technologies, the agricultural inputs, and we look at the energy that's used, the number one consumption of energy on a farm level is pumping water. And if we're spending all of this energy to basically waste 50% or more of the water, that's wasting 50% or more of the energy. So I see that all of the technologies that are coming together, they obviously require the right irrigation. You can have the right seeds, the right fertilizer. If you don't give the plant the right amount of water, it's not going to work.
So extension services is the basically growth driver, number one. And number two is research. Research into seeds would be required. Unless and until a scientist or organization is ensured that his research would be valued and it would be safe and on ground, It is difficult to invest in money to the research and investing the human power. So this is, in my opinion, the research into seeds would be the growth drivers and productivity drivers.
The last word.
I think I should not say seed or pesticide, which is important. I think it's in the total valuation of agriculture. I think each and every component, whether it's the soil preparation, whether it's the equipment use, whether it's the optimum utilization of fertilizer, even up to end of the post-harvest management, if you don't have a good storage and all, I think need to address each and every challenge in this whole value chain. That's, I think, very, very important. And whereas we have seen there's a lot of development and initiatives are coming from new government as well. And a lot of things are happening in the private sector also. I think there is a lot more to be done in the shape of collaborating all these efforts together, which can give you, better result than that. I think that's what.
All right, with this we close the panel. Thank you so much for your valuable inputs. Thank you so much.